The sun was still crawling over the rooftops of Kigali, painting the city gold, when Mama Doreen stood silently on her balcony. She was in her mid-50s, graceful yet commanding, wrapped in a soft cream gown that swayed with the morning breeze. Her eyes, though warm brown, held a quiet storm. The compound below buzzed with laughter, the kind that wasn't innocent. Her tenants were at it again. They whispered, mocked, and snickered every time she passed. "Old-fashioned landlady," they said, "still living like it's 1990. They laughed at her wrinkled hands, her traditional head wraps, even her voice when she called them to pay rent. But Mama Doreen only smiled faintly. She had learned that real power never announces itself. It moves in silence. That morning, she carried a tray of tea through the corridor. As she walked by the young tenants, their voices lowered just enough for her to hear. "Can you believe she owns this whole building? I heard she got it from her husband's death. Must be nice to live off a dead man." Their laughter cut through her like knives, but she didn't stop walking. She placed the tray gently on her veranda table and whispered, "A fool's laughter ends where wisdom begins." Her grandmother's proverb echoed in her mind like thunder. Inside her modest yet elegant living room, Mama Doreen sat before an old framed photo, her late husband, Mr. Kamau, the man who had built everything with his bare hands. "They think you left me weak," she murmured. "But you taught me strength." Her fingers brushed the glass gently. Then she made a call. "Yes, it's time. Bring the documents. I want every unit inspected and revalued this week." Her tone was calm but sharp. Something was brewing, something none of her tenants could foresee. Outside, the tenants continued their mockery. Tasha, the loudest among them, strutted across the courtyard in her glittering mini-dress and bold red heels. "We're paying her too much. This building's old anyway," she bragged to her friend, Kenny, who chuckled while sipping his drink. "Let's teach her a lesson. Maybe she'll respect us when we stop paying rent for a while." The two burst into laughter again, completely unaware that Mama Doreen had quietly recorded their entire conversation from her balcony. Her phone camera caught every word, every insult, every plan. Days passed. Inspections began. Strange men in suits walked in and out of the compound, measuring walls, taking notes, and snapping photos. "What's happening?" one tenant asked. "Maybe she's selling the place?" another guessed nervously. The laughter that once filled the courtyard started to fade into whispers of confusion. But Mama Doreen remained silent. She greeted everyone with the same calm smile, offering her usual herbal tea to anyone who passed. At night, when the lights dimmed and the city outside quieted, she stood by her window, watching the tenants party below, music blaring, lights flashing, bottles clinking. She sighed softly. "They mock what they don't understand," she thought. Then she opened her diary and began writing. "When they laugh at you, don't shout back. Build something that silences them." By the end of the week, rumors spread like wildfire. The tenants gathered in the courtyard, worried. Mama Doreen finally stepped out, her cream gown flowing as the morning sun hit her face. "Good morning, everyone," she said with a gentle smile. "I have an announcement." Tasha crossed her arms, smirking. "What now, Mama D? Gonna tell us to pay early again?" The others chuckled. But Mama Doreen didn't flinch. She handed each of them a printed notice. "This compound has been approved for redevelopment. You all have 30 days to vacate." The laughter stopped. Silence cut through the air like a blade. "Wait, what? You're evicting us?" Kenny shouted. "You can't do that!" But Mama Doreen simply looked at them, eyes calm but piercing. "You mocked the roof that sheltered you," she said softly. "Now you will feel the rain you laughed at." The crowd exploded in anger. "You can't just throw us out!" Tasha screamed. But Mama Doreen only turned away. "I gave you respect. You returned mockery. Now I give you consequences." Her voice was cold and final, Behind her calm exterior, she was trembling slightly, not from guilt, but from the weight of her own silence. For months, she had tolerated their disrespect, their gossip, their arrogance. But this was justice. She knew the redevelopment wasn't just for profit. It was a statement. Never mistake kindness for weakness. As she entered her living room again, she looked up at her husband's portrait and whispered, "You see, my love? They forgot whose name is on these deeds." A soft tear rolled down her cheek, but it wasn't sadness. It was relief. Outside, chaos filled the courtyard. Some tenants shouted, others cried, but Mama Doreen brewed her tea quietly, her heart steady. The same people who had mocked her now scrambled to save themselves. And just as the screen fades to black, her voice echoes softly, meant for every viewer to feel. When they mock your simplicity, let success be your reply. The once lively compound of Nyamirambo now felt like an empty shell. The laughter that used to spill from its balconies had dissolved into uneasy silence. Days after the eviction notices, the tenants who once mocked Mama Doreen moved like shadows, packing boxes quietly, avoiding her gaze. Even the radio that usually played Afro beats in Tasha's room had gone mute. The morning sun stretched long beams across the courtyard, reflecting off half-closed windows and half-broken pride. Mama Doreen stepped out of her apartment in a soft ivory gown, her head wrap tied neatly, gold earrings catching the light. Her steps were steady, her expression calm, yet there was something regal about her silence, the kind that makes others straighten when she walks by. She paused at the veranda railing, watching movers carry out furniture from the rooms once filled with gossip. For the first time in months, peace hummed faintly in the air. Across the yard, Tasha sat on a suitcase, scrolling through her phone without really seeing the screen. Her vibrant red braids hung loose. Her once confident eyes were tired. Kenny paced beside her in jeans and a gray hoodie, frustration written across his face. "I still can't believe she's really doing this," he muttered. Tasha sighed. "We went too far, Kenny. We laughed at her like she wasn't human." Their voices carried softly, and though they didn't know it, Mama Doreen heard every word. She looked down at them, her heart tightening not with anger, but with something heavier, disappointment mixed with understanding. Then she whispered to herself, "Even the seed that mocks the soil forgets who feeds it." Inside her living room, sunlight fell on the framed photo of her late husband, Mr. Kamau, the builder whose strength had become her blueprint. She sat beside the portrait, touching its frame gently. "My love," she whispered, "they thought silence meant surrender. But you taught me that patience is also a weapon." Her phone buzzed. Eric, her only son, had arrived from Nairobi. He entered moments later, tall, dark-skinned, and confident in a navy blue suit. "Mama, the investors are ready. They've signed the final papers," he said. She smiled faintly. "Good. But before I move forward, there are words I must leave behind." She walked out into the courtyard, her sandals clicking softly against the tiled path. The tenants turned to look, some embarrassed, others anxious. Tasha stood quickly, clutching her handbag as if it could hide her guilt. Mama Doreen approached them slowly, her cream gown moving with the breeze, her presence commanding yet calm. "Tasha, Kenny," she said, her voice low but firm. They exchanged glances and stepped forward. "Yes, Mama Doreen," Tasha answered, almost whispering. Mama Doreen studied them for a long moment. "Do you remember when you couldn't pay your rent last year? I told you not to worry, to pay when you could. Do you remember?" Tasha nodded, shame written across her face. "And when your sister fell sick, who drove her to the hospital?" Kenny's eyes dropped. "You did, Mama." Her expression softened, but her voice held steady. "Then why, my children, did you mock the hand that helped you?" No one spoke. The compound seemed to hold its breath. Then Mama Doreen handed them an envelope. Inside is a refund for your last month's rent. I won't take a coin from those who lost respect for my home. Let that money remind you that kindness is not weakness. Tasha's tears came quickly, hot and silent. Mama, we were wrong. Please forgive us. Mama Doreen's smile returned faintly. Forgiveness is free, child, but trust must be rebuilt like a broken wall, brick by brick. Her words hung heavy in the morning air. Even the workers carrying boxes stopped for a moment, their eyes lowered in quiet respect. By afternoon, Eric met her under the mango tree near the gate, holding a folder of blueprints. Construction begins next month, he said proudly. They'll turn this place into modern apartments, Kamau Heights. Mama Doreen nodded slowly. Then the soil that heard their mockery will now see their lesson. The two walked through the compound one last time. Dust swirled as movers packed the final truck. She looked at each doorway, the memories, the noise, the pain, and smiled softly. Every ending, my son, is only the quiet beginning of a wiser chapter. Weeks passed, and the old building came down piece by piece. The crash of bricks against the earth sounded like a cleansing. The neighbors who once gossiped about the old-fashioned landlady now stopped to greet her respectfully as she supervised the site. Mama Doreen, we hear you're building something grand, one said. She simply replied, I'm building silence that speaks louder than pride. By the time the rains returned to Kigali, steel beams had risen where walls once stood. New glass windows reflected the clouds. Fresh paint shimmered ivory against the skyline. 3 months later, the grand opening of Kamau Heights drew the community together. Mama Doreen arrived in a flowing gold dress. Her head wrap matched perfectly, her son walking proudly beside her. Camera flashes sparkled as a reporter stepped forward. Madam Doreen, people say this project began after your tenants left. What inspired it? She looked into the lens with calm authority. They mocked my simplicity, she said, so I built something their arrogance could never afford. The crowd murmured in awe. Applause erupted as the ribbon was cut, revealing the shining marble courtyard and blooming gardens where weeds once grew. Children ran laughing, neighbors smiled. The same space once filled with mockery now breathed new life. Later that evening, as the sun melted into gold and the city lights flickered awake, Mama Doreen stood alone on her balcony. Below, the new tenants, young professionals, families, students, moved peacefully through the courtyard. The smell of roasted maize drifted through the breeze. She held a cup of herbal tea in her hand, the same kind she had brewed through every storm. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Tasha. Thank you for everything, Mama. I found a new apartment and a job. I've learned my lesson. You taught me more than you know. Mama Doreen smiled softly, eyes glistening. That is enough, she whispered. As she turned toward the framed photo of her late husband, the city lights painted her face in warm amber. We did it, Kamau, she murmured. They mocked the woman you left behind, but now they speak her name with respect. A gentle wind brushed her cheek as if answering back. She raised her tea, whispering one final truth meant for every soul who ever doubted her worth. Power doesn't scream. It builds. The camera slowly zooms out, showing Kamau Heights glowing under the Kigali skyline, a beacon of resilience and quiet strength. Soft African drums blend with distant choir voices as her closing line echoes over the city. When they mock your simplicity, let success be your reply.